Hey guys, so today I am going to be telling you about something that is kind of relevant to this whole entire COVID situation that's happening in this country, in the world. I'm gonna start off by saying that my parents decided to go to Czech Republic right before this got really bad. I think when they left to go to Czech Republic, there were maybe a couple cases in New York, and it was nowhere near as bad as it is now, but I definitely foresaw it getting worse, which is why I chose not to go. It was really hard for me not to go with them because I haven't seen my family in Czech Republic in over a year and a half, and you know, now given the circumstances with this virus, I don't know when I'm going to be able to go back and visit them again, and that sucks. My parents flew through Vienna because Vienna is actually closer to where my family is from in Czech Republic than Prague. So they flew into Vienna and then they drove about 2.5 to 3 hours to my family's hometown. And within a few days of them arriving in Czech Republic, things got very bad. Things escalated tenfold. The number of cases in the United States was going up, and at this point I realized this is going to get very bad. I have an apartment in New York. I literally packed my car and I drove to Connecticut, and I am now at my parents' house. Unfortunately, this is the safest option for me right now because in an apartment, it's difficult when you have 2 dogs. You're constantly in and out. You're exposed to all of the people that are living there, and a lot of these people work in New York. So I felt it was best for my safety to be in Connecticut. My parents have a yard and I can really easily isolate myself here. So when my parents left for Czech Republic, I came here, and I've been here for over 2 weeks now. And my parents were very stressed out because literally a few days after they got to Czech Republic, the borders started to close. It became pretty clear that unless my parents changed their flight and came back sooner than they were supposed to, they would be stuck in Czech Republic indefinitely. So I think they were in Czech Republic for about a week, and they were trying to figure out how they were going to fly back. And they tried to get a hold of the airline. The airline was so busy that they literally couldn't even answer their phone calls to answer questions or help them with changing the ticket. Then, as luck would have it, Czech Republic decided to close the borders, which would then make it impossible for my parents to get back to the airport. So this was obviously a challenge. My mom was calling me like every single night, crying, saying like, I can't believe this is happening. I've never experienced anything like this in my entire life. And at one point I was like, okay, it's obviously not gonna help by just, you know, shoving it in my mom's face like that I told her. So she needs to figure out how to get home. She needs to get home. And what my parents ended up doing was having my uncle drive them to the Austrian border. There, right at the border, they got out. They somehow managed to cross the Austrian-Czech border, and when they got to the other side, they had a cab waiting for them to take them to the airport. And they flew through Frankfurt, Germany, and they eventually arrived back in New York. But then this also presented another problem, and that was, what if they had been exposed to the virus while they traveled? It wouldn't be unlikely. I mean, there was that famous chef who also traveled through Frankfurt, Germany just recently, and he passed away from coronavirus. So like, you know, it's everywhere, right? And the incubation period for this virus is up to 2 weeks, and if they were to go directly to their house in Connecticut where I was staying, then, you know, 3-4 days can go by, then they start presenting symptoms, but then it's too late because they would have already passed it on to me, and I'm in a very high risk category. My mother was obviously concerned. She's more worried about me than I am worried about me at times. And so the logical thing to do at that point was for them to self-quarantine at my apartment in New York. So they went to my apartment in New York and they literally stayed there for 2 weeks. They did not leave, and they went crazy. My parents started to feel a little bit sick. They felt sinus pressure, they had a runny nose, they had a scratchy throat. My mother felt weak, and she wasn't sure whether or not it was coronavirus. And there's also, I guess, some studies that suggest that even if you have coronavirus and you recover from it and you're doing better, you're still shedding the virus. You can still spread it to people. So my stepdad and my mom called their doctors and explained the situation. My parents went to the coronavirus testing facility. Their doctor made it very easy for them. I feel like a lot of people are saying that it's very difficult to get a coronavirus test, and I totally believe that. I think my parents just simply got lucky. But in other cases, I think it's completely unacceptable how difficult it is for Americans to be tested for coronavirus.
Hello, we are on our way to Griffin Hospital to get tested for coronavirus. We just came back from visit from the Schengen zone, from Czech Republic, Austria, and Germany. So we decided that we're gonna call the doctor, and our doctor suggested we will be tested. So here we are on our way.
And it was one of those drive-through corona testing sites where you don't even get out of your car. Somebody in like a hazmat suit walks up to the car and does the test, which I guess they put something up your nose and it goes into your throat. And people are saying it's painful. I've actually had this type of viral test done on myself, and it is uncomfortable, but I would not go as far as saying it's painful. I don't think it's anything to freak out over, especially given the fact that coronavirus is a deadly virus in some people, where, you know, you lose your ability to breathe basically. So both of my parents were tested. There was only one other car there, and they were just in and out within, I guess, 5 to 10 minutes. And then they were told that they would be notified within 3 to 5 days whether or not they have coronavirus. It was a nerve-wracking time. This past week has been really, really scary because I was kind of like preparing myself for my parents getting a positive result. Yesterday morning, my mom called me. And they're negative for coronavirus. And such a huge relief. My parents packed their stuff, they got in their car, and they drove back to Connecticut, and they're now back home. And it has been such a process for them to get from Czech Republic to Austria, from Austria to New York, from New York to here, and they had to go through all of these hoops just because of my safety. I'm grateful that they care so much about my safety, that they would literally not risk my life for even like a smidge. Unfortunately, this past week I did get some bad news, and I shared it over on my Instagram, and I guess I'll share it here as well. I went to a family reunion about 2 years ago in Czech Republic, where I met up with my grandfather's side of the family that I'm not very close with. But at the end of the family reunion, we all put our email addresses on a piece of paper just so we can keep in touch and organize future reunions. And unfortunately, I got an email from one of the family members that 2 family members have come down with coronavirus. And it was my understanding from the email that both of them had passed away, but I was wrong. One of them passed away. The other one is in ICU on a respirator, and he's old. So, you know, it's worrisome. And I send my condolences to my family members in Czech Republic. Up until that point, I didn't really know anybody personally who had died from it. So this is real, this is happening, and you know, it's coming to your doorstep eventually. So stay safe, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon.